So we said we wanted R-rated Mortal Kombat, and this year they definitely gave it to us. So let's jump into the third R-rated ultra-violent Mortal Kombat adaptation. Get over here! I'm sorry, I couldn't help it. Mortal Kombat Legends Battle of the Realms is brought to us by director Ethan Spalding and stars the voice talents of Jennifer Carpenter, Joel McHale, Jordan Rodriguez, and Patrick Seitz. So this movie picks up shortly after the previous Mortal Kombat Legends Scorpion's Revenge. This time the Earth Gang has to fight one final tournament to determine the fate of all the realms. And since this is the be-all end-all final tournament, none other than that badass S&M dressed motherfucker Shao Kahn shows up to lay the motherfucking smackdown with a big ass hammer. That's right, this is the big enchilada, the last battle, the final countdown to the Battle of the Realms. So the previous animated Mortal Kombat Legends Scorpion's Revenge was the first rated R Mortal Kombat that we've gotten. And it did do a lot of things right. It gave us what we'd been wanting, that ultra violent over the top gore that Mortal Kombat is known for. And the film's story did more or less stay faithful to the Mortal Kombat mythos. And being a Mortal Kombat fan, while I did enjoy the film, especially the first third, the rest of the film, while faithful to those mythos, was just telling us a story that we've heard a million times at this point. We've seen and heard the first Mortal Kombat tournament's origins in one way or another about as many times as we've seen Spider-Man's origins. So while the movie was fairly entertaining and it did give us that blood and gore, the story was just kind of, okay, I love the story and all, but I've seen it a whole bunch of times. Tell me something new. Enter Battle of the Realms. Now, while this isn't a wholly original MK story, it does tell us a story that we haven't heard so many times. It also kind of cherry picks things throughout the lore to kind of compile this one single story. And while there were some familiar things going on here, especially for someone like myself who is very familiar with the MK lore, it was still pretty refreshing to see it all compiled a bit differently, and it still felt like Mortal Kombat. Overall, I enjoyed the story of Battle of the Realms more than I did Scorpion's Revenge, mainly due to the fact that it was a fresh take. It's something that we haven't gotten a million times over. Now, the story here isn't that deep. In fact, the first 2/3 of the film, while yeah, entertaining, are really just scenarios that give us reasons to have fights. They are cool fights, and I did enjoy them, but they're just that. You're seeing characters that you've known throughout the years that you love, and they go up against each other, and sometimes they don't always make it out. Lots of blood, gore, and yes, that signature creative violence is here. But it's not until the final third that we start to get something a bit more exciting, something a bit more original. I mean, somewhat original. Hardcore MK fans are going to recognize some of this stuff, but the vast majority of people, this will be all new territory for you. And even for the fans that are familiar with it, you're going to enjoy seeing this because we haven't really had an opportunity to see this outside of the games up to this point. I don't want to ruin what happens, but the movie does take a turn at one point. You think it's actually wrapping up and this is the end of the movie, but then this big thing happens. There's another story going on in the background as the main story is going on, and the two converge at one point and become one. The final third of this film is what MK fans want. It is really over the top, big, grandiose, and just pretty badass. I also want to add that there are definitely some parts in this final third that Dragon Ball Z fans are really going to be into. Me, myself, personally, never really been a Dragon Ball Z fan, but I do recognize that there's some stuff in this final third of Mortal Kombat Legends, the Battle of the Realms, that you're probably going to be into. Big fucking epic two-man battles that are crazy over the top. You know, good shit like that. As far as the voice cast and performances go, we get many returning actors and characters from the first film. And that was one of the things that I thought that film did do good. It cast some really good voices for its characters, and that carries over to here. I thought the writing in the first one at times was a little bit crass. They were just trying to like push that R-rated envelope and say, hey, look at us, we're R-rated so we cuss a whole lot, and they don't do that as much here. Now, obviously, I don't have a problem with cussing. It doesn't fucking bother me. But in the first one, a lot of the times the language that they use seems seemed like it was just placed in there so they could show how R-rated and edgy they were. Here they did cut down on it considerably. I mean, it's there, but when it's there, it actually makes sense. It flows better here. The voice cast as a whole is pretty much on the same level. They all do a really good job with these characters. And it doesn't hurt that the dialogue this time doesn't seem quite as forced. Now let's talk about the animation for a minute. Now this is one area that I think the original film does have a one-up to this one. The animations, the artwork, and the style in this film are not bad, but when compared to the first one, which wasn't perfect, it had its issues as well that I mentioned, it does seem a little bit cheaper here. Really, it kind of seems a bit inconsistent. There are times that the artwork and the animation seem really high quality. They're very fluid and they flow great, and I like the way that they looked. But there were other times that it just seemed really rushed and like they didn't put nearly as much effort into it. This stuck out to me like a sore thumb. I understand that animations are not going to be like 24 frames per second like a movie, but damn, this shit was like missing a whole lot of frames. The actual animation of the characters in some parts, like the way that they're actually moving, just seemed really janky at times. How it looked, the actual artwork in most scenes was really good, but it was just kind of janky. Now this isn't the end of the world and it doesn't ruin the movie, but I gotta say it did knock off a few points for me because it does stand out and it is throughout the film. Now all that aside, there were two things that this movie did that I did really like. One of them is a narrative beat and one of them is just a pure fun thing. Firstly, the movie makes it real clear that nobody is safe. You don't know who is going to die here because there are characters that you never expected to die within this universe and they fucking die, like really gruesome deaths. I love this. It really added something to the experience because this is a franchise with a lore that I know very well. So when they changed it up just a bit and had characters die that you weren't expecting, like quite a few of them in fact, it really made you not know what to expect. There is a lot of fighting in this movie, and there are times in these kinds of movies when you have two characters go up against each other and you kind of know who's gonna win. Or you at least know that, hey, you know, this character over here, if they don't win the fight, they're not gonna die. Not in this movie. Nobody's safe. There are characters that get taken out that you just never see coming. And that did really add to the experience and made the overall thing pretty refreshing. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk about that I really did like about this movie is the kills. The blood, the violence, the gore. You know, the shit that made Mortal Kombat famous. And it is all here. Most notably, as I mentioned a while ago, the creative way that they kill people in this movie. You got decapitations, you got people getting ripped in half, arms being ripped off, bones being broken, people getting stabbed, all kinds of body parts getting ripped off, spines getting ripped out, people exploding, motherfuckers sliced and diced left and right. It is all here, and a lot of it is done with that extremely creative flair that Mortal Kombat is known for. Fans of the franchise will be happy with the way that characters are dispatched in this film. Now that being said, the movie does kind of lean on that a bit more in its lighter story moments, but you know, it's okay because that's kind of why we're watching this thing to begin with. Does Mortal Kombat have really deep lore that it could lean on? Sure it does, and the movie does to a degree, but there are some parts where the story gets a bit thin and they lean on that violence. But it's okay because those moments of over-the-top ultra violence are really fucking fun. Guys, Mortal Kombat Legends Battle of the Realms is a fun, entertaining flick. Is it gonna appeal to everybody? No, this is more for fans of Mortal Kombat or fans of anime. But those fans are most likely gonna find something to really enjoy here. The movie's animation is a bit shoddy and inconsistent at times, and unfortunately, it can detract from the experience a bit. The story does have its lighter moments, and the first two-thirds, while still entertaining, aren't really doing anything crazy over the top. But the final third really kicks it up quite a few notches and takes things to the next level. They did a fantastic job of not letting you know who was and was not safe at any given time, and the gore is over the top and an MK fan's dream. And while the movie isn't going to be for everybody, for those MK and anime fans, this movie is absolutely worth a buy.
Do it! Do it!
Show me the money!
Do it!
You motherfucker!
So,
Show me the money!
do it!
I had a really good time with this flick, and while yes, it does have its issues, what movie doesn't? So for fans of the genre or the game, if you're looking for a bloody good Mortal Kombat time for the night, then check out Mortal Kombat Battle of the Realms, and I think you'll have a really good time with it. So there it is, guys, my review of Mortal Kombat Legends Battle of the Realms. If you enjoyed and want more content like this, hit that subscribe button and help my little channel grow. If you want to help out the channel, check out my Patreon in the description below and become a jarhead and get some of the awesome benefits that go along with that, like these guys. And possibly join my top tier and become a bad motherfucker like my man Greg. If you liked what I had to say, give me a like. If not, let me know in the comments below why. And as always, stay sexy, NetherRealm.
Brought my girlfriend, and whoa, she is pretty good with a rifle.
There's a scene closer to the end of the film between Johnny Cage and Sonya. It's not really that long, but it has like this pseudo 80s throwback vibe going, and I just loved it. It's during that last kick-ass third of the movie, but this scene in particular, out of all of that, I just loved it. I want more of that. It was just the way the scene was put together, the music and everything about it was just awesome. It was like a ball of awesomeness in the middle of a whole lot more awesomeness. And that pseudo 80s throwback vibe, which granted was mostly due to the music in the scene, was perfect. Could you imagine like an 80s retro throwback themed Mortal Kombat? I don't even know how you work that into the story. I don't really care. It can be like a what if scenario. I mean, Marvel does it. Everybody else fucking does it. Come on, Mortal Kombat. Give me that. I want my 1980s themed Mortal Kombat game. Please. It'd be so rad.